Let's start with the legal housekeeping because this channel doesn't play with defamation. Now, family, this video is based on public reporting, specifically an IOL article linked in the description box below. Everything that we're going to be discussing here is drawn from publicly available sources. The individual discussed has not been convicted of any crime as of yet, and the prosecution has not yet been completed. So I'm not declaring guilt here. I'm just talking about the issues, this whole thing just raises in terms of accountability and how the law works when, the accused once wore the robe of justice themselves,
Mulini, and welcome to yet another episode of Conversations with Nkosi. Now, this is the news commentary section where we will be offering insightful commentary and exploring various perspectives on the stories that shape our world.
A judge in the Bloemfontein High Court is in a legal battle to avoid prosecution after he allegedly misappropriated over 2 million rand intended for a client. The case is rooted in Mpina Mathebula's previous work as an attorney practicing under the name Ace Mathebula Attorneys in Sasolburg. According to court documents from July 2012 to May 2018, Mathebula was allegedly involved in the misappropriation of funds after helping a boy who was involved in a car accident. Mathebula's services were requested by Dimakatso Makete, an elderly woman who wanted compensation from the road accident fund, known as RAF, for her grandson. Following the claim, RAF paid out 2.2 million rand into Mathebula's law firm account August in 2013. In addition to the amount, RAF made another payment of more than 900,000 after the High Court ordered RAF to pay for the costs of the application in total. Mathebula's law firm received over 3.1 million rand. However, only over 110,000 was paid to Magete's grandson. Aggrieved by the amount, Magete later complained, and the state managed to recover over 1.2 million rand from Twanzo Melato, who worked at Mathebula's law firm as a candidate attorney. He took over the business when Mathebula was appointed a judge, but he has since been struck off the roll of attorneys. He is also co-accused with Mathebula in the criminal proceedings. Based on calculations by the state, at least 1.3 million rand is outstanding. According to the charge sheet, Mathebula allegedly made various unlawful transfers from the law firm's trust account into his business account. Stemming from the alleged transfers, Mathebula is facing charges of theft, alternatively fraud, and money laundering. In his defense, Mathebula disputed the accuracy of the calculations and denied the charges against him. He made numerous efforts to contest the charges, including making representations to the Director of Public Prosecutions. However, the request was declined. A subsequent request to the National Director of Prosecutions met the same fate. He then turned to the High Court, which concluded that the relief sought was drastic and should only be granted sparingly and in compelling circumstances. Unrelenting, he sought relief at the Supreme Court of Appeal, known as the CSA, where he submitted that the decision to prosecute was based on a fundamental lack of appreciation for how attorney and client fees are computed. Consequently, the decision was arbitrary, irrational, and in violation of the principle of legality and the rule of law. Furthermore, he argued that his right to dignity has been impaired by being forced to face a prosecution that lacks necessary factual basis to support a rational decision. He argued that being charged and appearing in criminal court subjected him to embarrassment, ridicule, and insults from the public, ultimately destroying his reputation and standing. Furthermore, he noted that defending himself against these charges throughout the trial resulted in substantial legal costs. Reviewing Mathebula's arguments, the SCA said he failed to prove a trial-related prejudice, such as an unreasonable delay in the commencement and finalization of his criminal trial. His complaint is essentially twofold. First, the charges have no proper legal foundation. Second, and flowing from the first, that he is suffering undue social prejudice and financial loss because of the prosecution, said the SCA. It was held that none of the arguments presented constitute trial-related prejudice. Regarding the first point, this pertains to the merits of the state's case, which only the trial court could determine. As for social prejudice and financial loss, these are considered inherent inconveniences suffered by every accused individual and are not registered as a trial-related prejudice. We agree with the High Court that the appellant Mathebula had made out neither a case of trial-related prejudice nor proved on a balance of probability extraordinary circumstances that warrant permanent stay of prosecution. The appeal must thus fail, said the SCA. Now guys, the link to this article will be in the description box below. Let's get into what we got from the article. Now, according to the article itself, this judge used to practice as an attorney under the name Mathebula Attorneys in Sasolburg. If I botched the pronunciation of that, but I tried. And in 2013, the Road Accident Fund actually paid over 3 million rand into the firm's trust account as compensation for a boy who got injured in a crash. But only 110 or over 110K of that amount as a whole is what went to the child. Now, wait, also, the rest, hi son, I mean, if the state says it was misappropriated by the firm with about 1.3 million rand still outstanding, and that is what the judge is now facing criminal charges for, it leaves a very bitter taste in our mouths, in all honesty. Let's also talk about, the legal battles to halt prosecution. Because this is where it gets interesting. Instead of defending himself, at the trial, you have a judge who has spent years trying to stop the prosecution before it even properly begins. I mean, he first went to the Director of Public Prosecutions and then took it to the National Director of Public Prosecutions. And both said no. Then he approached the High Court for a stay of prosecution, which was rejected. And then the Supreme Court of Appeal, which also rejected. The SCA said that, his complaints that the charges lack legal foundation and that he's suffering embarrassment and cost are not enough to stop the prosecution before trial. My thing is, but where was this energy when the money was supposed to be paid into this little boy's account? If he has so much energy to fight against, this case going forward, why could he not just pay the little boy what's meant for him? Now, here's the part that should also, make every South African raise an eyebrow. Now, this is the bigger issue. It isn't just about, defending oneself in court. That is a constitutional right. But for me, what stands out is how a person is now using legal tactics to try and stop prosecution itself. No ordinary person gets to do the judge version of legal dodgeball. And that's exactly how this looks. The law is supposed to be blind, angali, but hey, not evasive. I mean, if we're going to be talking about, ethics, trust, and institutions, isn't it so that judges are tasked with upholding the law? Isn't it so that they interpret the rules? They decide who's guilty. They decide who goes free. So when a judge tries every legal loophole in the playbook to avoid prosecution, the public trust meter has to flicker naganjani, because and I'm not saying it because he's innocent or guilty, but it's mainly because it looks like the system bends more for one of its own. And guys, let me be clear again, this video does not assert guilt. It just discusses the public interest and institutional implications of what's happening. I mean, no court has found him guilty, as of yet. The case is ongoing. So this is commentary on what has been reported. With that being said, accountability is not about condemning before trial. It's about asking the right questions, especially when institutions that preach justice appear to be protecting their own. If the law bends for the privileged, what does that entail for the rest of us? And yes, the article I based this discussion on is in the description box below, so you can read it yourself, and make up your own mind, judge the facts yourself where they lie, Kodwa-ke angeke kushintshe ukuthi the rope doesn't come with legal invisibility. That marks the end of today's video. Thank you so much for lending your eyes and ears. I hope that you found today's video informative. Please do not forget to click on that subscription button or light the notification bell so that you do not miss out on any new uploads. Nkosi.